This video is an interpretive exploration of Greek and Roman mythology. Today, we're going to travel back through the river of time and step into one of the ancient world's most brilliant and tragic strategy stories. How could a fortress that stood firm for 10 long years, unmoved by every attack, collapse in a single night? What hidden secret could bring down a city that seemed impossible to conquer? Maybe that secret was wrapped in something sweet and harmless looking, a gift. And the story we're exploring today is the legend of the Trojan Horse. This is more than an old myth or a famous war story. It carries a powerful message about how important it is to look past temptation and see the truth underneath. So let's break down, piece by piece, how this deception worked. The setting is usually placed around the 12th century BCE, in the grand world of ancient civilizations around the Aegean Sea. The Trojan War became one of the longest and most exhausting conflicts of all. The Greek alliance sent some of its greatest heroes against the city of Troy: Achilles, Agamemnon, and Odysseus. But Troy held on. Its massive walls were strong, and in the early and middle years of the war, warriors like Hector helped keep the city standing. Even after 10 years, neither side had truly moved forward. The endless siege wore the Greeks down. The soldiers were tired, homesick, and crushed by the sense that the war might never end. Their morale fell lower and lower, and even the commanders could not find a clear answer. Across the barren plains outside Troy, the long rows of Greek tents must have looked like a field of grave markers. Inside them were weary men, staring at distant walls coated in dust, wondering how much longer this could go on. At some point, the Greek command realized they could not keep dragging the war forward like this. Too many heroes had already fallen, and the soldiers were reaching their limit. They needed one final chance to end it. In a meeting filled with silence and despair, while everyone else lowered their heads, the king of Ithaca, Odysseus, quietly began to speak. And this is where his strategy takes a sharp turn. Odysseus understood that a direct attack was no longer the answer. But I don't think he came up with this plan simply because he was clever. What made him different was that he could face reality without blinking. 10 years without victory was not to him a matter of pride. It was data. Only someone who can admit failure can design a strategy that turns failure around. To me, Odysseus's real weapon was not the horse itself. It was his cold, honest view of reality. The heart of his plan was not just trickery. It was the idea of turning the enemy's own desires into a weapon. Odysseus saw three things with perfect clarity. The Trojans desperately wanted the war to be over. They would hesitate to destroy a sacred offering. And once people feel drunk on victory, their guard starts to fall. He aimed directly at all three. At first, his proposal shocked and confused the other Greek leaders. But in that desperate moment, the boldness of the idea began to win them over. Agamemnon and the rest of the high command chose to place their last hope in this dangerous gamble. In the tradition passed down through Homer's Odyssey and Virgil's Aeneid, the physical horse itself was built by the master craftsman Epeius, while Odysseus is remembered as the mind behind the plan. Both traditions also say that Epeius completed the structure with the help of the goddess Athena. Inside it was a hidden space, set in different versions, to hold anywhere, from a small group to dozens of warriors. Once the massive wooden horse was ready, the Greeks moved into the next stage of the deception. They made it look as if they had finally given up on the war and sailed home. They burned their camp, boarded their ships, and disappeared over the sea. Or at least made it seem that way. After 10 years of siege, the beach was suddenly left with smoking ruins, and one enormous wooden horse standing alone. When morning came, the Trojans carefully opened their gates and stepped out onto the shore. There they found a Greek man left behind, bound like a prisoner. His name was Sinon, and he was part of the plan. He claimed that the Greeks had turned against him and nearly offered him as a sacrifice, but that he had escaped. Then he added the most important part of the lie. The The horse, he said, was a sacred offering to Athena. And if the Trojans brought it into their city, they would gain the goddess's blessing. Honestly, I think Sinon may have been the most dangerous part of the whole operation. The horse was only a tool. Sinon was a living person, and if he broke, panicked, or slipped even once, the entire plan could collapse. The fact that Odysseus chose someone for that role tells us just how well he understood human nature. A true strategist does not just build a plan, he knows exactly who can carry it out. Not everyone in Troy was convinced. Laocoön, a Trojan priest and seer, strongly warned against bringing the horse into the city. He even hurled a spear at it, and the hollow sound that came back should have raised alarm. Cassandra also foresaw disaster, but she was cursed, so that no one would ever believe her, even when she spoke the truth. Both of them saw what was coming, but their voices were drowned out. And I don't think they were ignored simply because the Trojans were foolish. People believe what they want to believe. After 10 years of pain and exhaustion, "This is a trap," was the last thing anyone wanted to hear. The warning was there. The real question was whether anyone was ready to accept it. That is exactly why this story still feels so modern. Then things took an even darker turn. Laocoön and his sons were suddenly attacked and killed by giant serpents rising from the sea. To the Trojans, this looked like a sign. They took it as punishment for insulting the horse, and that made Sinon's lie even more convincing. In the end, after much debate, Troy's leaders chose to bring the horse inside the city. The people cheered. They even tore down part of their own walls and pulled the horse into the heart of Troy with ropes. According to the classic traditions in Homer's Odyssey and Virgil's Aeneid, the Trojans celebrated deep into the night after bringing the horse into their stronghold. Relief washed over them. At last, the war seemed over. That feeling of release clouded their judgment, and even the soldiers guarding the walls began to relax. Then the night grew quiet. The fires of celebration faded. The city drifted into sleep. And in the silence, the hidden door of the horse opened. Greek soldiers climbed out, one by one. Led by Odysseus, the chosen warriors moved through the darkness, exactly as planned. They overpowered the sleeping guards and threw open the great gates. At that very moment, the main Greek force, waiting for this signal, rushed back into the city under cover of night. The great civilization of Troy collapsed in an instant. Flames rose along the walls and turned the night sky red. The whole city fell into chaos. 10 years of resistance ended because of a single, fatal mistake. The tragedy of Troy shows, with brutal clarity, what can happen when people focus only on what is visible and fail to see the intention hiding inside it. To me, the most painful moment in this story is not the burning city. It is the moment the gates open. No one smashed them down from the outside. The Trojans opened them themselves. They tore down their own wall. The most dangerous destruction does not always come from outside. It often begins within, when we choose to believe what we want to believe. That is not just a story from 3,000 years ago. It is the structure of human decision-making, and we still live inside it every day. The story of the Trojan horse is not just an ancient myth. It is a timeless warning about the importance of strategic thinking, of seeing the hidden motive, and the invisible truth beneath the surface. So what are the Trojan horses of our own time? What looks like a gift, but carries something dangerous inside? And do we really have the wisdom to tell the difference? That warning has not faded, even after 3,000 years. And next time, we'll come back with another twist from history and the strategic insight hidden inside it.
In my view, every great collapse in history shares one thing in common. Not a powerful enemy, but a moment when someone chose to stop asking questions.